My name is Lucas, and this is a review of the Palmetto State Armory Premium Upper Receiver Group with the FN Cold Hammer Forged barrel that Palmetto sells. And it also came as a full kit with everything else except for the lower to build the gun. This upper receiver is on loan from a friend of mine who thought it'd be a decent place to start when buying an AR. I told him that I could look it over for him, I could gauge it, I could inspect everything and rebuild it for him and tell him any possible shortcomings that it could have. And I asked if I could do a video or a review on it, and he had no problem with that at all. So I'm not a professional by any means. I'm just a hobbyist. I really like to do this kind of stuff. I'm really into all the specifications and all the little details that goes into this hobby. I ended up taking way too much video throughout the review, so I'm just going to go over everything in one video. To start out, I would not consider this a good upper receiver, and I don't think it should be considered when purchasing a first or second or however far you are into this hobby. I'm going to be going over pretty much why. The good, the bad, the ugly of this thing. I initially started off with first taking it out of the box and just doing a very visual inspection. I looked at the finish, and immediately I noticed there was rough bare metal showing on the underside of this receiver. There was chips and rough edges all over this thing and blemishes throughout this upper, even on here in the ano where I could fit my fingernail under. That is not great to see. Whenever I first opened it and looked, the handguard was slightly clocked off, not terrible, but slightly. And that's due to it not having the anti-rotation tabs going onto the upper. I did happen to notice that the gas key on the bolt carrier group was staked properly. So that's not bad. That's what you want to see. My first initial test fire, I shot 30 rounds to start off with. I used a Sons of Liberty Gunworks metal mag, a BCM metal mag, and a Magpul PMag Gen 2. I used Federal Brass XM193, 5.56, 10 rounds in each, and the bolt lock to the rear as it should with each magazine. It was a little gassy, not overly gassy, just a little bit. And before I did that, I did install these, laser sight them in, and I put a few drops of oil on the bolt carrier group. After that, I brought it back in and I went straight to the disassembly and the gauging of everything. I started out taking out the bolt carrier group, nice and greasy, and I gauged the gas key on it. The gas key measured at 0.183 inch, which is oversized. The firing pin and the bolt were both magnetic, so that's not a good thing. That can attract metal debris, metal flakes from your primers, or if you shoot steel case or any other metallic debris that can get in there, it will attract it and could cause you some issues. So that is something that should definitely be monitored if this bolt is continued to be used. The cam pin had a bit wobble in the bolt. That's not the best thing to see. It'll probably wear pretty quick and might need to be replaced shorter or at a faster rate than others. I looked at the gas tube fitment inside the gas key and noticed there was quite a bit of wobble, and it was fit pretty loosely in there, so that tells me that there's going to be some leakage around the gas key area. The gas key was staked, looked staked properly. I did a reverse torque check starting at 20 inch-pounds and up to 30 inch-pounds, and it passed that and did not come undone or loosen at all. That is what you want to see. So I also took out the extractor, looked at the spring, the claw, made sure it was free moving, and that looked all right as well. That was pretty much it with the bolt carrier group. Magnetized gas key was oversized. Next thing I looked at was the gas block, and it did fit tight to the barrel. That is what you want to see. And the screws were torqued to over 20 inch-pounds, but not more than 25 inch-pounds. That's right in the range of also what you want to see. The two measured slightly under at 0.1785. It's not terribly undersized, but should be right at 0.18. It is a bad combination for this gas key. It's undersized slightly, and that one is significantly oversized. So you're going to get a lot of gas blowing out around the tube. You're going to get a lot of leakage right in here. There was also no thread locker on the gas block screws. The handguard has some flex to it. I'm pushing on the front, so if you're running and you happen to rest it on something, it could throw off your sight if you are using flip-up iron sights, or if you have something on the handguard that needs to be sighted in. That's not ideal. You don't necessarily want to see that. When I took out these screws in the handguard, one screw was torqued no more than 15 inch-pounds. I would have been nervous about that one possibly coming out if not have inspected it. And the other one was about 25 to 30 inch-pounds. That one wasn't terrible. There was no thread locker on that. There was also two set screws inside there, which seems to be an improvement over Palmetto State Armory's old handguards. I've had ones in the past that did not have those set screws and would come off during firing, no matter how tight you tighten the screws. That one had to be sent back continuously. The barrel nut was torqued onto the upper on the lower end, closer to 30 foot-pounds, but was still tightly on there. I have seen in the past for Palmetto where the barrel nut was pretty much not tight at all. That is definitely not good, and definitely not something you want to see. The upper receiver itself it's bad. The upper was really just not good with all the blemishes shown. Well, that I could see. It looks like it had really rough machining. And the main complaint that I have with it is that it fits extremely poorly on multiple lower receivers that I've had to try. I believe one or two of those holes are drilled either at an angle or incorrectly, because the takedown pins, The pivot pin was extremely difficult to push all the way through. The lowers that I used are common lowers that I use on a lot of things, or a lot of uppers, and they never have issues. They're known in spec, so I'm not worried about the lower. It's got to be something with the upper. The barrel was okay. The gas port measured at 0.078, which is in spec. There was no Aeroshell 64 or any kind of anti-seize on the barrel nut. That's not something I want to see. I want to see some kind of anti-seize there. The feed ramps were okay as well. I didn't see an issue with those meeting up to the upper receiver, and the rounds seemed to feed okay. The barrel extension seemed to be in line. When I looked inside the barrel, the chroming seemed very weak. I have other cold hammer forged barrels with chroming that's supposed to be double chromed, and both of those barrels, not this one, my other ones, are easily identifiable to have significant chroming. This one just seemed really light. The rifling also seemed very light on this barrel. There's possible that you could have some issues in the future, or the service life of the barrel might be shortened because of that. You might see worse groupings. On Palmetto State Armory's website, it is advertised as extra thick chrome, and it's definitely not. The muzzle device was installed correctly from Palmetto State Armory, and it was not loose. I have also had that happen, getting upper receivers directly from them, to where the muzzle device was not properly installed and untwisted itself and came off during firing. This one happened to be okay though. During reassembly, everything was reassembled to specifications. The barrel nut was torqued to 50 foot-pounds, and there was Aeroshell 64 put on the threads. The gas block screws were torqued to 20 inch-pounds, and red Loctite was applied. There was also new screws put in there since I took out the old ones. On the barrel, FN does not dimple that barrel at all for Palmetto State Armory. So I have an SLR dimpling jig, and I double dimple the barrel just as a little extra security measure so that gas block won't rotate, though that gas block does fit pretty tightly to that barrel. That was kind of a surprise. I aligned the handguard properly. I torqued the two screws to 40 inch-pounds and put blue Loctite on it. And then I put in the set screws and made sure everything was good to go, lined up, and properly installed. There was a new crush washer that I put on the muzzle device. Shouldn't reuse those things. Should always put a new one on if you take that off and want to put a new one that uses a crush washer back on. I greased the bolt carrier group and the charging handle and reassembled, but I do not have a demagnetizer to demagnetize it, so it'll have to be used as is or get a new bolt carrier group. On to the second test fire. The second test fire, I used the same 3 magazines, same ammunition, and I fired 30 rounds total, 10 rounds out of each magazine, and they all locked to the rear. It was still a little gassy because of the gas key being oversized, and it was about the same as the first initial test fire. My final thoughts: overall, it's not a good upper. There's way too many things wrong with it to be considered quality at all, which it's not. It's you see better uppers that are marked as blemished from other manufacturers. Like, it's not good. The fit was the main issue with the upper. Blemishes really don't matter if you're going to be using your gun, but the fit is just not good. Along with everything else that I mentioned before, the bad just definitely outweighs the good in this upper receiver. Just because it's cheaper, it doesn't mean that the downfalls are acceptable. You shouldn't have these kind of downfalls, especially from a company as big as Palmetto State. It is a much better idea to save a little bit longer and get a better upper receiver or better parts to build your own upper receiver. You can even find, inspect, and good parts for a similar price or less if you catch sales, or you just find some other good parts. There's actually quite a bit out there that are much better than this for a very similar price. If you got any questions, I would be happy to answer them. I'm around most of the gun groups. You can feel free to comment, like, share. I don't really care. If you're just starting out and you want recommendations, just ask before you buy. If you buy and then ask, you kind of look stupid. Just, if you're not 100% sure about something, ask in one or more of the groups. Will you get bullied? Maybe a little bit, but just toughen up, have a little bit thicker skin. It's all in good fun. If someone's genuinely being mean, just ignore them. There will be people who will answer your questions. There will be people who will answer it correctly and will give you good information. There's a lot of good people to look up to in a lot of these groups. So, not just myself, but there are plenty of others that'll help guide you through the process of either building a gun, building an AR, or guiding you on which parts or which complete firearm to buy. It'll get you a good gun. I really just want to see people get quality firearms that'll last them a while, so they're not wasting money on stuff like this. And then eventually they want something better in the future anyways and spend more money to get it. I learned the hard way. I started out buying a lot of really cheap stuff. I ran into a lot of issues along the way and didn't really have anyone to guide me through it. And I eventually found some more quality parts, and that's what started getting me into more of why I was having these issues with the cheaper products, and I wasn't having the issues with the products that I was spending a little bit more money on. Turns out the ARs just aren't inherently bad. If you use quality, you get good guns, good parts. They'll run very reliably, like really reliably. You shouldn't have issues with ammo that you put through. A good gun should run most ammunition. Just the AR in general is not a problematic platform. Crappy parts are what's problematic. Crappy guns that are put out there is what's problematic. So get quality. If you need help, ask around. I can help you. There's lots of people who can help. Thank you for watching. I know it's a little bit long-winded, and I really hope this helps someone out there. Thanks, guys.